But to trade the account, you can get what's called limited power of attorney for trading. It's like a limited authorization just to trade the account. And now everything's done through internet. You can go on the internet, you can pull up the website of the bank, you can execute trades through email, and buy and trade stocks, buy and sell stocks, but you can't withdraw the money. So you can give one power just to trade, and then one power to withdraw the funds. So that way we know everything is always secure. And dealing with offshore banking, they're very much into privacy secrecy. Not only do they want you to designate your trade and perhaps your signature, they want to have, for example, a PIN code, maybe a 5-digit PIN code from you that you say over the phone that they know you're the person, or perhaps a password. And we don't use mother's maiden name. That's been used and overused. You can use whatever name you want. Call it, just pick an obscure name, and that would be the passcode. So if somebody calls up and says they're you, well, they're going to have to know the passcode first. So those are the type of secrecy privacy features that are built in. Because some of the risks that you have these days is fraud. Anybody that gets a hold of your signature and your account number and your PIN code, of course they could withdraw your money. You don't want that to happen. The banks that we deal with offshore are so secure and so private by law that actually we can assist in opening the account. We can help fill out the application, send it to them. All they would tell me over the phone is, Mr. Sears, the account has been opened. They would not tell me the account code. They would not tell me the account number. They say, Mr. Sears, you have no authority over that account. You're not even anywhere on the document. I'm their attorney. I have no control. I don't even know the client's account number myself. I never will know. I don't know their PIN code. I don't know their balance. I know nothing about their account. Their initial deposit could be zero. They allow us to open the account with zero balance. You could wire in $1 million or $10 million. I would never know. And we're the closest person to the account. That's how good the secrecy privacy is. We don't even know people's balances. All we do is we facilitate opening the account through that corporation. Now, the corporation controls the bank account. It can also transact business. And if you're going to wire money offshore, I think a lot of it's privacy, too. You don't want to move, say, $1 million or $500,000 in your name to your account offshore in your name. It's pretty obvious. Bank tellers, everybody's going to know that something's going on. They can see the wire transfer. We'd rather move it from your Nevada structure or your Wyoming or Delaware structure. Say we're going to move it from XYZ Company, LLC, to the offshore company, which is called Global Investment Group Limited. Well, it's just a little bleep on a wire. It's from bank to bank. Wires are moved. I'm sure every second, millions and millions of dollars are transferred globally. So it doesn't even raise any red flags, because if you have a small bank account at the local branch, the secrecy is so poor. I think it was, who was that? Citibank, they even said that if you use your credit card too much, they'll even call you and warn you. Well, they're watching everything you do. They're watching your credit card transactions. They're watching your balances. They may even call you and say, guess what? You transferred a lot of money in your account. Why did you do that? Well, that's nobody's business. You don't want your bank calling you, asking you questions. But if you have a company account, even $100 million is not unusual. We had one gentleman, he set up a Nevada corporation. Well, he used the name similar to this, Ohio State Teachers Pension Fund, Inc. And that name was available. I thought it was unusual, but it served his purpose. He had to move in $10 million, well, no better than to a pension fund, right? And he gave the name of the pension fund, whatever he chose to give it. But the bank or the securities company that handled the transaction, nobody cares about $10 million in and out of an account called pension fund. So money went in, money went out. It served its purpose, right? Anonymity, privacy. Same thing offshore. Designate your payments to the offshore company, and we can even designate it to the bank officer. We can send it to Barclays Bank of, for example, Isle of Man. Attention, Bank Officer Jim Jones. And what will happen is he will take that money and he will put it into your account without your account number being stated on the wire. Because you can imagine the lack of privacy if you have to put in the wire from account number to account number. So just state it to Mr. Tom Smith at Bank of Luxembourg, attention, Bank Officer so-and-so, and he will put the money in your account for added privacy. So these are all the features that they'll allow offshore that you don't commonly see. So we got the privacy, again, tax consequences, neutral. Even the corporation becomes a flow-through entity, and the LLC becomes a flow-through entity for U.S. tax purposes. The only people that get really tax advantages from offshore companies are people that have offshore business and offshore family. If you have family wealth from overseas, there's a way to perhaps shelter it tax-wise, but for a U.S. person, generally taxable. Now, if we want to minimize taxation, we can always do deferral. We can buy capital gain assets that are deferred and also tax advantaged upon distribution, because capital gain assets are taxed only at 20% now long term. So why don't we buy equity assets, hold them long term, and pay the nominal tax rates? If you have to bring it out at 20%, so be it. If you have to bring it to Nevada, pay 15% tax rate, okay. Pay the tax and you have access to the money. So worst thing is to have all that money offshore, have it grow to 5, 10 million, and can't spend it. What good is that? You hid it all from the IRS, they don't know about it. Well, how are you going to bring it back, right? You bring it back, you're going to pay tax on it eventually. So pay tax as you go, use proper structures. If you want to do a massive deferral, we can even set up an offshore annuity that defers all the tax till liquidation. A lot of programs can be done legally. By doing it legally, you can access the money. One gentleman put about $4 million offshore. He used his credit card to pull out $500 a day out of the ATM machine. He thought that was a brilliant plan. Well, one day the machine sucked in his credit card, wouldn't give it back, and it said, offshore bank right on there. He got so nervous, he thought FBI took it. He came into my office shaking. I thought, well, better yet, you pay the tax, you'll be a much happier person. Well, we did a few amendments and got him back into tax paying. He was much, much happier, being able to access his foreign account for asset protection purposes. But generally, if you get a credit card from the offshore bank, it won't be particularly in the name of the bank. It'll just say Visa on it. Or we'll use like Bank of Finland or someplace away from the bank that we're using generally for your asset protection and structure. So you can access money by credit card. You can get traveler's checks. You can wire the money back. Now you can do check writing in Europe in euros or any currency you want. So many ways to access funds from offshore. And if you want to bring it back, ATM machines, you can use that for global travel. A lot of things become tax deductible once you move your money offshore into a large investment portfolio. Of course, we're going to designate you the portfolio manager if you want to be that position. All your travel is going to be to investigate banks, and the banks are in the most beautiful of countries. Why not travel, meet the bankers? The corporations are in nice jurisdictions. Travel there, meet the corporate agents that we use. Travel to seminars. Everything you do, online, internet banking, everything becomes deductible. So now you have a structure now to at least justify your lifestyle, which is now investment oriented. So that's something that we highly recommend. Also, the privacy is very good. Tax consequences we talked about. Offshore services for complete privacy. If you don't want to get the physical statement sent to you because the privacy is so limited on mail, the outside of the envelope, anybody can look at. It's not protected by law. What's inside the envelope is protected. But you know how mail gets misdelivered? Your neighbors open your mail, they go, oh, Swiss bank account, $10 million, how nice. I'll put it back in the envelope and give it to my neighbor back again. We don't want that to happen. Any mail that we send via our office is hand-carried by courier from the foreign jurisdiction to U.S. soil and then remailed in a plain envelope for privacy. Or nowadays, access the website. Turn on the computer, look in the website, check through an encrypted code your account balances, and then when you turn off your computer, it disappears. Don't store it on your hard drive. Just look at it and it's gone. That's the beauty now of privacy through banking. Or have them hold the statement, send them to you once a year. Or get your statement monthly, but send it through our mail forwarding. Also, telephone services, if you want to call your offshore bank, if you want complete privacy, get the credit card. Now they have those little prepaid credit cards for telephone services. Call your offshore bank all you want. No record of all the phone calls to your offshore banking. The corporations we set up are so private that the offshore jurisdictions we use will send us the corporate documents with just nominee director on there for the public record. We type in all the documentation of the owner. That means the only people that know that you own this bank account and corporation offshore is yourself and our office and the bank, which has bank secrecy by criminal statute. Those are the only people in the world that know. And we do such a volume. If you ask me about 30 days later who owns which account, I would not even know because we handle so many accounts ongoing and we don't keep a particular record that we have to. So you become really a matter of complete privacy with your banking, just you and bank-protected secret countries. Also, our firm protected by attorney-client privilege, which is so important that you always deal with attorneys on these matters. So let's talk about the third part of the structure. So we talked about offshore banking and all the attributes of keep your money offshore, the corporation for anonymity, privacy, and holding the bank account and bringing in the wire transfers in an anonymous name. Let's talk about the most important part of it all, and that's the trust. Now, remember earlier we talked about fraudulent conveyance, how you want to set up your structure before you're sued. Well, what happens if you are sued? And what happens if you do lose your lawsuit? And if the judge, who already has ruled against you so many times within that trial for you to lose that lawsuit, he doesn't like you by now. He wants to rule against your asset protection plan. He doesn't like your offshore structure. He doesn't like anything about it. He wants you to turn over that asset. Well, what happens if he orders you with a court order and he holds you in contempt of court if you don't turn over all your assets to the judgment creditor plaintiff? Well, we need a defense to that. And what we do, this defense to the fraudulent conveyance is, in case of a court order, what we do is we set up everything through the offshore trust. That foreign trust becomes the pivotal umbrella entity holding everything. What that does is that holds the corporation and the domestic structure too, all within its umbrella. And within that umbrella, the first line of defense we have is the jurisdiction itself, because the jurisdictions we use have a very short statute of limitations. That means that judge who doesn't like you, if he wants you to turn over the asset, where they're going to have to do it within a short statute of limitations.